She met Ethan when life still felt wide and kind. They were both young, still learning who they were, still believing love could fix anything. He had an easy smile and a calm way of speaking that made people trust him quickly. To her, he felt safe. Not exciting in a loud way, but steady, like something that would last. Their relationship grew slowly. Long walks, shared meals, quiet talks late at night. He listened when she spoke, or at least she believed he did. When he proposed, it felt natural, like the next step everyone expected. There was no fear in her heart that day. Only hope. Marriage at first was simple and warm. They rented a small place, nothing fancy, but it was theirs. Mornings smelled like coffee and toasted bread. Evenings were spent on the couch, talking about dreams that felt close enough to touch. She believed they were building something honest. Something real. She trusted him without effort. Trust did not feel like a choice. It was just there. She never checked his phone. Never questioned his stories. If he said he was late because of work, she believed him. If he said he was tired, she gave him space. Love, to her, meant believing even when doubt tried to speak. But doubt did not arrive loudly. It crept in slowly, almost politely. It started with small changes that were easy to excuse. Ethan began coming home later than usual. Not every night, just enough to feel different. He said work was busy. Deadlines, meetings, stress. She nodded and told him she understood. Then there were the phone calls. Short, quiet, taken in another room. When she entered, he would end them quickly, smiling like nothing was wrong. She told herself everyone deserved privacy. She did not want to be the kind of woman who questioned everything. The distance grew in ways that had no clear shape. He still slept beside her, but his body felt farther away. Conversations became shorter. His eyes drifted when she spoke. Sometimes she would talk about her day and realize he had not heard a word. She tried harder. Cooked his favorite meals. Asked about his work. Planned small surprises. She believed love meant effort, and effort would bring him back. When he forgot things that once mattered, anniversaries, promises, even simple plans, she blamed stress, not betrayal. There were nights she lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing, wondering why she felt lonely while married. The thought scared her, so she pushed it away. Loneliness felt like failure, and she was not ready to admit anything was broken. Friends noticed before she did. They asked gentle questions. If everything was okay. If she seemed tired. She smiled and said marriage was not always easy. She defended him without thinking. Saying his name felt like protecting something fragile. Still, her body reacted even when her mind refused to. Her chest tightened when he received messages late at night. Her stomach sank when he smiled at his phone but not at her. Sometimes she felt like a guest in her own home. She began to doubt herself instead. Maybe she was too sensitive. Maybe she expected too much. She remembered how strong they once were and told herself that love had seasons. This was just a cold one. One evening, he came home very late. The house was dark. She had waited with dinner until the food went cold. When he finally entered, he did not apologize. He looked tired, annoyed, distant. When she asked where he had been, his answer was quick and sharp. Work. Always work. Something inside her shifted then. Not anger. Not proof. Just a quiet knowing. Like a door closing somewhere deep in her chest. She watched him walk past her, phone still in his hand, already typing a message to someone else. He did not notice her watching. In that moment, she felt invisible. Not unloved exactly, but unseen. That night, as she lay awake again, her heart whispered what her mind still refused to say. Something was wrong. Something was breaking. She did not yet know what the truth was, but she felt it moving closer, like a storm she could not stop. She turned her face toward the wall and let a tear slip quietly. She did not want to wake him. She did not want questions. She was not ready for answers either. Before everything broke, there was this space. This silence filled with excuses. This moment where love still existed, but trust had started to crack. And deep inside her, even before the truth showed its face, Her heart already knew it was coming. The truth did not arrive all at once. It revealed itself in pieces, like something that wanted to be found but feared the light. She did not wake up that morning expecting her life to change. It felt like any other day, quiet and ordinary, which later made the pain feel even sharper. Ethan left his phone on the kitchen counter when he went to shower. That almost never happened. Usually, it stayed close to him, face down, silent. She noticed it without meaning to. The screen lit up suddenly with a message. Just one line. A name she did not recognize. Last night was hard. I miss you already. Her breath stopped. She stared at the screen, hoping it would fade, hoping she had read it wrong. Her hands felt cold, even though the room was warm. She told herself not to touch the phone. Privacy mattered. Trust mattered. But something stronger than respect moved her hand forward. She picked it up. There were more messages. Not just from that day, but from weeks before. Plans made in quiet words. Jokes she had never heard. Comfort she thought belonged only to her. The language was intimate, familiar, cruel in its softness. Every message felt like a small cut. She did not cry at first. Shock held her still. Her mind tried to protect her, slowing everything down. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she misunderstood. But the dates were clear. The words were clear. And the photos made it impossible to lie to herself any longer. When Ethan came out of the bathroom, she was sitting at the table, phone in her hands. He froze when he saw her face. For a moment, no one spoke. The air felt heavy, like it could break if either of them moved. Who is she? Her voice sounded calm, almost strange to her own ears. He tried to lie. Said it was nothing. A coworker. A misunderstanding. The words came fast, careless. But when she placed the phone on the table and turned it toward him, his shoulders dropped. The lie collapsed under its own weight. Her chest burned. She felt pain, anger, disbelief, all fighting for space inside her. She asked how long. He looked away. That answer hurt more than the truth. Silence became his confession. Weeks, he said. Then months. He said it started as talking. Just talking. He said he never meant to hurt her. He said he felt lonely, stressed, confused. Every excuse felt like another betrayal. She listened without interrupting. Tears finally came, slow and heavy. Not loud, not dramatic. Just quiet tears that carried years of trust breaking apart. She asked why. Not because she believed there was a reason, but because she needed to hear him try. He said her name softly. Said he still loved her. Said he did not know how it happened. But love, she realized, should not feel like this. Love should not require explanations filled with guilt. That night, they slept in separate rooms. The house felt unfamiliar, like a place she no longer belonged. Every object reminded her of something they once shared. The walls felt too close. The silence too loud. Over the next few days, she tried to make sense of her emotions. Sometimes she wanted to scream. Sometimes she wanted to disappear. Part of her hoped he would beg, that regret would change everything. Another part already felt something closing inside her, a door she could not reopen. Ethan apologized again and again. Flowers appeared. Promises followed. He said he would end it. Said it meant nothing. But trust, once broken, does not heal with words. Every time he touched her, she felt tense. Every time his phone buzzed, fear returned. She asked to meet the woman. Not out of anger, but out of need. She wanted to see the face of the betrayal. Ethan refused. Said it would only make things worse. That refusal told her everything. The truth settled slowly. Not as a single moment, but as a weight she carried every hour. She was married to someone she no longer recognized. The man she trusted had built a second life without her. One evening, as they sat across from each other, she realized she was no longer asking questions. The answers no longer mattered. Something inside her had shifted from shock to clarity. She told him she needed space. Real space. Not a promise. Not an apology. He looked afraid then. Afraid of losing her, afraid of consequences. But fear was not love either. As she packed a small bag, her hands shaking, she felt broken but also strangely awake. The betrayal had hurt her deeply, but it had also opened her eyes. She was not imagining things. She was not weak. Her heart had been right all along. When she walked out that door, she did not yet know the full cost of what he had done. But she knew one thing with painful certainty. The life she believed in was over. And nothing, no excuse or promise, could bring it back. The days after she left felt unreal, like she was moving through someone else's life. She stayed with a friend at first, sleeping on a couch that felt too small for her thoughts. Every morning she woke up confused, reaching for a routine that no longer existed. The sound of Ethan's voice was gone, but his presence still followed her everywhere. The divorce process began quietly. There were papers, meetings, and calm voices that spoke about her marriage as if it were a business agreement. She nodded, signed where she was told, and answered questions without emotion. Inside, she felt hollow. It was strange how something that once meant everything could be reduced to documents and dates. Ethan tried to contact her. Messages came late at night, long and emotional. He said he was sorry. He said he made a mistake. He said he wanted to fix things. She read some of them, ignored others. Every word reopened wounds she was trying to close. She realized that listening to him kept her tied to pain. When the divorce was final, she expected relief. Instead, she felt a deep sadness settle in her chest. Not because she missed him, but because she missed the woman she used to be. The woman who believed love was safe. The woman who trusted without fear. She moved into a small apartment of her own. It was quiet, almost too quiet. At night, the silence pressed against her ears. She filled it with television noise, music, anything to stop her thoughts from growing too loud. Sometimes she cried for no clear reason. Sometimes she felt nothing at all. She blamed herself more than she admitted. Replayed memories, searching for signs she should have seen earlier. Wondered if she had failed him in some way. Even though she knew the betrayal was not her fault, the question stayed with her like a shadow. Her body showed the pain her voice could not. She stopped eating properly. Sleep came in short pieces. Her face looked tired, older. When she passed mirrors, she barely recognized herself. Confidence had slipped away quietly, leaving doubt in its place. Therapy helped, slowly. Sitting in a small room, talking to someone who listened without judgment. She learned that healing was not straight or fast. Some days felt strong, others felt impossible. She learned that grief did not only belong to death. It belonged to endings too. She returned to small habits. Morning walks. Simple meals. Writing thoughts in a notebook she kept hidden in a drawer. Words flowed more easily on paper than out loud. She wrote about anger she did not want to feel, about love she no longer trusted, about fear of being alone forever. Friends supported her, but she still felt isolated. People expected her to move on quickly, to be strong, to be thankful she was free. They did not see the nights she sat on the floor, hugging her knees, trying to remember how it felt to be whole. She avoided places that reminded her of Ethan. Restaurants they loved. Streets they walked together. Even certain songs felt dangerous. Memories attacked without warning, leaving her breathless. Healing, she realized, was learning how to survive these moments without breaking. Months passed. The pain softened, but it did not disappear. It changed shape. Instead of sharp heartbreak, it became a dull ache. Manageable, but always present. She learned how to carry it without letting it control her steps. One afternoon, while cleaning her apartment, she found an old photo of them together. Young, smiling, unaware. She expected tears, but instead she felt calm. She saw the picture clearly now. It was real once, but it was also finished. Both truths could exist. She began to feel stronger in small ways. Standing up for herself at work. Laughing without guilt. Making plans that did not depend on anyone else. Independence felt unfamiliar, but also empowering. She was learning who she was outside of marriage. Then, one evening, she heard news that stirred everything again. A mutual friend mentioned Ethan. Casually, without knowing the impact. Said he was serious about someone new. Said it seemed fast. Said it looked like love. Her heart sank, even though she tried to act normal. That night, old fears returned. The idea that he could move on so easily made her question her own worth. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone who caused so much pain could appear so untouched by it. Still, she did not reach out. She did not ask questions. Something inside her had changed. She was no longer willing to reopen wounds for answers that would not heal her. She stood by her window, looking at the city lights, and took a deep breath. She was not fully healed. She was not happy yet. But she was standing. Surviving. Learning. She did not know it then, but her life was quietly moving toward another turning point. One that would bring the past back into focus in a way she never expected. And when that moment came, she would see just how far she had come. The news reached her on an ordinary afternoon. She was folding laundry when her phone buzzed with a message from an old mutual friend. The words were casual, almost careless, but they carried weight she felt instantly. Ethan was getting married. Not someday. Not maybe. Soon. She sat down slowly, the clean clothes slipping from her hands onto the floor. Her heart began to race, then sink. She read the message again, hoping she had misunderstood. But the meaning stayed the same. He was marrying the woman he had cheated with. For a long time, she did nothing. She just sat there, staring at the wall. She thought she had moved past this part of her life. Thought she was stronger now. But the news reopened something fragile inside her. Pain returned, sharp and familiar, like a wound that never fully closed. She imagined them together. Planning a wedding. Smiling. Choosing flowers and music. The thought made her chest ache. It felt unfair. Not because she wanted him back, but because it seemed like he escaped the consequences while she was still learning how to breathe again. That night, sleep refused to come. Memories crowded her mind. Their wedding day. The promises. The way she believed every word. She wondered if he would say the same vows to another woman, as if the past never existed. Days later, an envelope arrived. Her name written neatly on the front. She knew what it was before opening it. The wedding invitation. Thick paper. Elegant design. Everything about it felt wrong in her hands. She laughed quietly, a sound without humor. Part of her wanted to tear it apart immediately. Another part felt frozen. Why would he invite her? Guilt, maybe. Or pride. Or the hope that she would see how happy he was. She placed the invitation on the table and walked away. For hours, she avoided it, like it might burn her if she touched it again. But the question stayed with her. Should she go? Friends gave mixed advice. Some said she should never attend. Said it would only hurt her more. Others said it could bring closure. Help her see the truth with her own eyes. She listened, but the decision felt deeply personal. She asked herself why she was even considering it. It was not revenge. Not jealousy. It was something quieter. She wanted to prove to herself that she was no longer afraid of his life without her. She wanted to stand in that space and not disappear. The days leading up to the wedding were heavy. She felt anxious, restless. Small things made her emotional. A song on the radio. A couple laughing in a store. She wondered if she was strong enough for this. She thought about the woman he was marrying. Laura. The name still tasted bitter. She did not hate her the way people expected. The anger was mostly gone. What remained was disappointment, sadness, and a deep tiredness. On the morning of the wedding, she stood in front of her mirror for a long time. She chose a simple dress. Nothing dramatic. Nothing meant to draw attention. She wanted to blend in, not stand out. Her reflection looked calm, but her eyes held stories she could not hide. The venue was beautiful. Soft lights, fresh flowers, laughter everywhere. It felt like a different world. When she arrived, some guests recognized her and looked away quickly. Others offered polite smiles, unsure what to say. She nodded, keeping her expression steady. Then she saw Ethan. He looked confident at first. Well dressed. Relaxed. But when his eyes met hers, something changed. The smile on his face stiffened. Surprise flashed across his features, followed by something else. Fear, maybe. Guilt. It passed quickly, but she noticed. She took a seat quietly, her hands folded in her lap. Her heart beat fast, but she reminded herself why she was there. Not for him. Not for pain. For herself. The ceremony began. Words about love and commitment filled the air. She listened, feeling detached, like she was watching a play she once performed in. When Ethan repeated his vows, his voice shook just slightly. Only someone looking closely would notice. During the reception, she stayed near the edge of the room. Watched people laugh, drink, dance. Laura looked happy, glowing. For a moment, she felt a strange calm. This was no longer her life. She did not belong to it anymore. Just as she began to think she could leave quietly, something unexpected happened. A woman she did not recognize stood up near the center of the room. She held a glass, tapping it gently for attention. The music stopped. Conversations faded. The woman smiled, but her eyes were serious. She began to speak. The first few words sounded harmless, like a normal toast. But as she continued, the air in the room shifted. Her voice carried a tone that made people uneasy. She mentioned timing, honesty, secrets that follow people no matter how far they run. She glanced at Ethan. His face began to change. Color drained from his skin. His confident posture stiffened. His hands clenched at his sides. The room felt suddenly very quiet. She watched him closely, her breath caught in her chest. She did not yet know what the woman was about to reveal. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever was coming next, it terrified him. The room stayed silent as the woman continued to speak. Her voice was steady, calm, almost too calm for the tension spreading through the air. She did not raise her tone or accuse anyone directly. Instead, she chose her words carefully, like someone who had waited a long time for this moment. She introduced herself simply. Said she was an old friend of Ethan's. Not close enough to be noticed, but close enough to know things others did not. People smiled politely at first, expecting a harmless story from the past. No one realized what was unfolding. She talked about choices. About how people believe they can leave parts of their lives behind without consequences. Her words sounded thoughtful, almost wise, but there was an edge beneath them. The kind that makes the skin prickle. Ethan stood very still. His eyes locked on her face. His jaw tightened. Laura turned toward him, confused, sensing the shift in his body. She reached for his hand, but he did not respond. The woman then mentioned dates. Timelines. How some stories do not begin where people think they do. Murmurs moved through the crowd. Guests exchanged glances. Something was clearly wrong now. She spoke about lies told in quiet places. About promises made to more than one person at the same time. She did not use names, but everyone knew who she was talking about. Her gaze never left Ethan. He swallowed hard. Sweat formed along his hairline. The confident man from moments earlier was gone. In his place stood someone exposed. Fragile. Afraid. Laura's smile faded. She leaned closer to him, whispering something urgently. He shook his head slightly, eyes still fixed on the woman speaking. Panic flickered across his face, quick but unmistakable. The woman paused, letting the silence stretch. Then she said it. Not loudly. Not cruelly. Just clearly enough for the truth to land. She revealed that Ethan had not ended his previous relationship when he claimed he had. That while he was telling Laura their story was new, he was still legally and emotionally tied to his past. Overlapping promises. Overlapping lives. Gasps filled the room. Whispers grew louder. Laura pulled her hand away from his, her face pale. She looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. The woman went on. She explained that she had witnessed conversations, seen messages, heard confessions from Ethan himself. She had stayed silent before, believing it was not her place. But watching him stand there now, repeating vows built on lies, had changed her mind. Ethan finally spoke. His voice cracked. He tried to interrupt, to explain, but the words tangled together. Excuses fell flat in the open air. The room no longer belonged to him. Laura shook her head slowly. Tears filled her eyes, not from embarrassment, but from realization. She stepped back from him, creating physical distance that spoke louder than any argument. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. Others stared openly. The celebration had turned heavy, almost suffocating. The music felt wrong. The decorations meaningless. Through it all, she sat quietly, watching. She felt her heart beat steadily, not with pain, but with clarity. This was not revenge. This was truth finding its way to the surface. Ethan's fear deepened as he realized what he was losing in real time. Not just his image. Not just this marriage. But control of the story he had carefully built. His eyes darted around the room, searching for support, but finding none. The woman finished her toast with a simple sentence. She said that honesty matters, especially at beginnings. Then she placed her glass down and walked away. No applause followed. Only silence. Ethan stood frozen, his face drained of color, surrounded by people who now saw him clearly. Laura wiped her tears, her hands shaking. The future they had imagined cracked under the weight of exposed lies. And in that moment, as the room held its breath, she realized something important. The fear on Ethan's face was not about losing love. It was about being seen. The silence did not break quickly. It lingered in the room, thick and uncomfortable. No one knew what to do next. The wedding that was meant to celebrate love stood frozen in confusion and shame. Ethan finally lowered his head. His shoulders slumped as if something heavy had been placed on them. He tried to speak again, but no sound came out. Words no longer obeyed him. The truth had taken their place. Laura stepped away completely this time. She looked around, embarrassed, hurt, and angry all at once. Then she looked at him, really looked at him, and her expression hardened. Whatever future she had imagined with him was slipping away in front of everyone. People began to move. Quiet whispers filled the space. Some guests left their seats. Others pretended to check their phones. The celebration was over, even if no one said it out loud. She stood slowly. Her legs felt steady, stronger than she expected. For the first time since she entered that room, she felt light. Not happy, not joyful, but free in a way she had not felt in a long time. Ethan noticed her movement. His eyes found hers across the room. There was desperation in his gaze now. Not love. Not regret. Fear. The kind that comes when someone realizes they can no longer hide. For a brief second, she felt a familiar pull. Years of memories tried to speak. But they had no power anymore. She held his gaze calmly, without anger or tears. Then she looked away. She walked past tables filled with untouched food and decorations that no longer mattered. No one stopped her. No one spoke. It felt like the world was quietly stepping aside to let her leave. Outside, the air was cool. She took a deep breath and felt it fill her lungs fully. It was the first real breath she had taken in that place. The night sky looked wide and open, full of possibilities she had once been too afraid to imagine. She did not rush. She walked slowly, letting the moment settle inside her. The past had finally caught up with him, and she no longer had to carry it alone. Behind her, the consequences were unfolding. Arguments would follow. Questions would be asked. Explanations demanded. His carefully built image had collapsed, and there was no one else to blame. But none of that belonged to her anymore. In the days that followed, she heard bits and pieces from others. The wedding was cut short. Laura left early. Ethan tried to explain himself, but no explanation was enough. People saw what they needed to see. He reached out to her once. Just one message. Short and uncertain. She read it, then deleted it without replying. Closure did not come from words. It came from finally seeing the truth in full light. Life slowly returned to its quiet rhythm. Mornings. Work. Small routines. But something inside her was different now. Lighter. Stronger. She noticed it in the way she stood, in how she spoke, in how she looked at herself in the mirror. She no longer questioned her instincts. She no longer replayed the past searching for mistakes. She understood now that love should never make someone feel small or invisible. One evening, she sat by her window, watching the city lights again. But this time, her thoughts were calm. She did not feel broken. She felt finished with that chapter. Ethan's fear at the wedding stayed with her, not as satisfaction, but as confirmation. The truth always finds its way out. And when it does, it frees more than one person. She smiled softly, not because of what he lost, but because of what she gained. Her voice. Her strength. Her future. Her story was no longer about betrayal or pain. It was about survival. About growth. About walking away with dignity. And for the first time in a long while, she knew with certainty that the best parts of her life were still ahead.